Request CA Meera Shah. I think let us start with the next topic, next technical session. In fact, our expert session. CA Meera Shah, if you can please introduce our expert nutritionist, Shaili Chauhan.
Yes, thank you, Harit sir. Good morning, namaskar everyone. I'm sure we all constantly come across nutrition and related information from the WhatsApp University, and every day we are all unsure about its validity. Sometimes following them does us more harm than good. And so, to counter so many misconceptions and myths associated with nutrition, we have with us Miss Shaili Chauhan, nutritionist and triathlete, for busting myths on nutrition. She has done BSc in Food Science and Quality Control from MS University Baroda, MSc in Food and Nutrition from Specialization Nutrition, and an MBA from NMIMS Mumbai. She also possesses certification on sport nutrition. Currently, she is a commercial operations advisor at Shell Energy India. Her fitness achievements include being a brand ambassador of Purpose apparel for athletes, core team member for organizing Ironman Goa 70.3, preparing for Ironman 3.8 km swim, 180 km bike, 42 km run. One half Ironman distance triathlon, 1.9 km swim, and the list is long. She has been an ambassador for Adani Marathon 2017, Gandhinagar Run, Pinkathon. Her achievements in the nutrition field include as being speaker for virtual and face-to-face nutrition sessions, Runners Forum, Cyclist Forum, corporates like Siemens, India Dresser, AB Jewels, Toastmasters Club, Global Metabolic Conclave 2020. Her nutrition guidance provided to multiple athletes for triathlon, duathlon, Ironman sports. She has been an official nutritionist for consecutive 3 years in stage cycling event, Tour of Aravali 2016, 2017 and 18. She has also done research. Her research publications include as a research paper on nutritional assessment of middle-aged Gujarati Jain populations and risk factor for non-communicable diseases in International Journal of Pharma Informa, Hospital and Clinical Pharmacy. Research paper on nutrition effects of dark chocolate in the International Journal of Pharmaceutical and Biological Archives 2010, and published few more papers in the prestigious journal. Well, this was the most interesting part, I think. So thank you for coming here, ma'am. We are privileged to have you here and educate us on the myths associated with nutrition. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just share my screen as well. So a warm welcome to all of you. I am so glad that the CA group is now picking up the wellness, I think wellness month, where you're flooded with a lot of awareness sessions, and I really look forward to see a lot of people who are on a sedentary desk job moving their legs as well, apart from moving the mouse. So hats off to ICAI to set this benchmark, and I'm happy that I can contribute in some way and inspire all of you and share some of my knowledge which can help you transform and bring wellness to you and your family as well. So to kick off, I think should I start with the rolling out the weekly challenge?
Yes, ma'am. We have just introduced it. If you can just elaborate with your presentation.
Okay, sure. So what is this week challenge? You all have tried your best to be on low sugar or no sugar last week. And this week we are back with one more challenge for you. That is, you need to detox once a week. Now, what exactly is detox? I'll just walk you through what are the benefits, what is going to do into your system, how is it going to help you. And we really want you to sustain these learnings which you take back after a month of these events. Now, what happens is that in a span of our lifestyle, there are a lot of habits apart from our eating habits, apart from our lifestyle habits, apart from your quantum of exposure you have in the environment, where we are actually exposing ourselves to a lot of chemicals, and that gradually builds up in our system. And that is where we need to detox, because these chemicals, these pathogens, these bacteria get into your system and affects, I can just show you this, it affects our body in different, like lymphatic system, skin, lung, liver. All these major parts of our organ are exposed to these pathogens and the pesticides and the what do you say, different kind of toxic compounds, which you find in not in your food but also in your personal care products. And that is where I'm really happy that you all are looking forward for this challenge. So what exactly you have to do? So you have to at least have a good sleep. So we are not going to focus only on food, but we are also going to focus on sleep. I know you all have long working hours. The work from home has really brought has affected the work-life balance, but we really want to focus on sleep. We need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. We need, as the summer has kicked in, we need to have 10 to 12 glasses of water. We really need to hydrate ourselves. We'll be incorporating a lot of good gut health foods, and the meal plan is given to you, which you can use as a ready reckoner to follow. And let's see how you can actually win this challenge. So are you all ready to take up this challenge? I would, all the interested participants, I would like you all to raise your hands who all are in for this challenge. Oh, wow, the number is growing. Oh, I'm glad from 40 to 50, we are already reaching 50 plus. I want all the hands to up. I can see 221 participants going live, of which I can see 69 hands up. Great, great. So this brochure will be sent to all of you. You can use this as a guide. And now, not taking much time, I would like to spend more time on busting some myths which I really want you all to take home as a lesson learned. So moving on to my session. So what are we going to talk about today? So there are a lot of myths regarding nutrition, and I really want to come and share the facts. What all myths we are going to focus on. We would be focusing on myths which are related to some nutrients, myths related to food. We'll be taking on some foods which are definitely having a lot of myths around, some myths on the workout nutrition, and lastly on the diet strategies. Now you stay attentive, because after each category I would be asking one question as a quiz, and I want maximum people to participate in it. So the more carefully you listen, I think you will be able to answer that question quite well. So kicking into the first myth, what is on nutrients? So the first nutrient what we are gonna find out is carbs. Now a lot of people come and ask us that, are carbs really good? Some people will say, oh, carbs, I really love carbs. I can't live without carbs. Some people will say, oh, I don't like carbs. I really want to restrict my carb intake. Now, carbs are not bad. What exactly goes wrong with you is when you are eating the carb, the timing, the quantity, and the type of carb plays a lot of role. So if I say there are actually two types of carbs. One is the simple one, and the second is the complex one. Simple one is purely focusing on, as soon as it gets into your tummy, it's going to fuel you with a lot of energy. You'll have a lot of stamina to actually do a good workout. You will feel energetic. But if you're taking that simple carbs or dinner, so it is important that what type of carb you are consuming. If you're consuming that carb as a meal, then it is important that you consume in a complex form, which has a lot of fiber. It's a complex carb, and which will take time to digest in your system and gradually release glucose into your system, and it will keep you not sluggish, but it will keep your energy levels in a steady state. And if you really want to have a kick of energy, you can use a simple carbs before your workout or during your workout. Now, how much you should take, I think it depends from person to person. It's a very individual one, because gender wise the carbs are different, the quantum of calorie output you have, the carbs are different. So the proportion is very specific to individual body, but carbs are actually not bad if you are considering the right type, the right proportion, and at the right time. And now moving on to the next myth. What is fat? Like, everyone thinks, "Arey, fat nahi khana chahiye." Now you might be seeing a lot of people are also listening about keto. Few people call me and say that I have come to you, I really want to try keto. And my answer is that it is we who will decide whether you really want to go for keto or not. What is keto? Keto is basically inducing a lot of fat into your body and triggering your fat metabolism, wherein your body, to use the energy, will be using fat against the carb. Now, person to person, the fat is different. Now, when we eat the fat, there are different types of fat. Like, as you can see in the image here, there are polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, all the milk and dairy cheese, you will find the saturated fats, and all the baked foods and the sugar-rich foods have basically the trans fats. Now, it depends what you are indulging in. If you are indulging into more of the poly and the monounsaturated fats, it's not going to harm you. So that is where the type of fat matters. It's actually a myth. A lot of people consider fat as a culprit, and they don't want to incorporate fat in the food. But I would say that you should not devoid yourself of any particular nutrient, because our human body is such that balance is a key. If you know how to balance the nutrients based on the food groups, then nothing is gonna damage you. Like, it's said that, you know, anything in excess is gonna do a damage. So it is there are a lot of essential amino acids which actually our body really needs. For example, like vitamins, you might be taking, a lot of people, due to the pandemic going on, they want to take a lot of vitamin supplements. People are indulging into a lot of fruits and vegetables due to the increasing the vitamin intake. But talking about vitamin A, D, and E, you can't digest it without fat. They are fat soluble vitamins, and you really need those essential fatty acids. So it is important that you use the right type of fat, and you are aware how much your body needs of fat. If you know your workout is gonna be more, then you can take the fat intake accordingly. And the type of the fat is the key here. What type of fat you are using? Good quality fats are really important in our body for our major functions. For our micronutrients to process in the body, we really need fat. So I clearly say that fat is actually a myth, and you should indulge in the right type of fat rather than indulging into this trans fatty acids and all the baked foods, because the baking process itself converts all the fats into the trans fats. Moving into the next one. Now, this is the one which I come across a lot, and I really want you all to answer. So when someone comes for that, Shelly, we really want to get into a nutrition program. So my first question is, what is your nutrition goal? And the most common answer which I get is weight loss karna hai. You know, my next question to them is, do you really want to lose weight? So I would say, pause. What is the weight? When you are standing on a weighing balance, you are getting a number displayed. Now that weight is actually comprised of your muscle weight, your fat percentage, your muscle bone mass.
Just a second, Shelly.
Yeah.
Shelly, you're not very audible. So can you keep the speaker near your mouth or try hands-free?
Is this better if I hold it?
Yeah, that is much better.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Puvi. So a lot of people feel that okay, weight loss karna hai, weight loss karna hai. But no, the weight, the number what you get on your weighing balance is going to display. Your weight comprises of your bone mass, your muscle mass, your water mass, your fat mass. You really want the bone mass, you really want the muscle mass, you really want the water mass. You don't want to lose that. The better answer to this is we really want to have a fat loss. So when someone talks about ideal weight, is actually a myth. A lot of people get into the numbers that yaar mera BMI kam aaya hai. So what is BMI? BMI is basically as per your height, what should be your weight. I don't want to focus on weight because I don't want weight. Just focusing on your weight is going to mislead you. We want to focus on fat loss. We want to keep our muscles intact. We want to keep our water mass intact. So it's not only, it's a very generalized thing when you say that, weight loss karna hai. So, and apart from this, I think your genetics play a very important role. The stress factor, which you come across all day due to your work pressure, juggling around your family responsibilities, your career-related responsibilities, and your different kind of goals around you. You really need to learn how to cope up with stress and not harm your health with that. And sleep, as I mentioned at the start of my session, sleep is equally important. And in my small video before the session, I had mentioned your discipline in your eating pattern. The timing what you eat, it's not only the quality and the quantity of food you eat matters. It also matters at what frequency you are eating and how organized way you are eating. Your timing of the food has to be regular daily. It is not just a 1 day, 1 month, 2 month thing. It has to be a sustained approach. So that is where I really wanted to talk about this a lot. It's not only weight loss. We want to do her fat loss and also focus on our sleep, on our stress, and our discipline in the eating pattern, which is a prime importance. So this was more on the nutrients. I would now ask one question to all of you. Are you all ready? Now what you have to do is you keep writing in the chat window. So the question is, men need more protein than women. Is it true or false? I would like to see some answers on this. I'll give you 10 seconds more. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the answer is that yes, the way the protein content for men and women is different. Why is it different? Because the gender differences are there. Also, how active you are. Men normally need more protein than women. Now, these are some special dietary guidelines which I've mentioned based on what age group you belong to and what part of life you are. In case of women, even lactating woman and a pregnant woman, you have different protein needs. And specifically talking about your physical workout, like the major 3 thumb rules are that if you are doing a workout which is less than 1 hour or 1 hour, you should only, a lot of people have a myth ki protein lena hai. People do 1 hour of workout in the gym and they are with a protein shaker. No, why are you doing so? Do you check how much protein you have already taken? So if you're doing just less than or equal to 1 hour workout, it's 0.5 to 0.8 grams per kg body weight. The next thumb rule is that if you're in a bracket of 1 to 2 hours workout, it's purely on 0.8 to 1 gram per kg body weight, and 2 to 3 hours workout is ranging from 1 to 1.2 grams per kg body weight. So it is definitely what gender you belong to, what kind of physical activity you have, or that all caters to different kind of protein needs from individual to individual. So this was more on the myths which were associated related to the nutrients. Now plunging into the next one, which is, and these are some of the food groups which has the nutrient value, which you can have a look at it. I'll be sharing the presentation also, so don't worry, you can get all this data which can be handy for you to incorporate in your day. So these are a lot of protein. A lot of people feel that protein kahan se aata hai. So these are some common protein rich foods which you can incorporate in your span of a day. Now moving on to myths on food. I want to talk a lot on this because I keep encountering these questions a lot. The first myth is on supplements. Now, a lot of people say that dietary supplements are necessary. But my answer to them is that what is the definition of supplement? Supplement itself says that you are topping up something with your food. So if your body is not able to nourish alone with the food, you are adding on, you are supplementing it with the nutrient. You're topping it up. You are not replacing. I'm repeating, supplements are not to replace your food. We want to focus supplement as a supplement. Our prime goal has to be that we have to nourish ourselves with the food. God has made our digestive system to process the nutrients. If you'll be constantly taking only supplements, your digestive system will go weak and you will encounter a lot of gut issues. So it is not that we have to replace the food with a supplement. Don't consider that as a convenience point ki, oh, I don't have time to cook. Instead of instead of chopping a fruit and having it, I would rather just take a multivitamin in a glass of water and just have it. No, sorry. I would seriously discourage that. I would recommend that first see if you are able to meet all your nutrient needs. There are 20 nutrients, macro and micro, in a span of a day. If you are able to meet all your nutrient needs with food, my preference as a nutritionist would be that it has to be food first. And like people like Sohil mentioned about he's doing Ironman. Purvi is also training for Ironman. I'm training for Ironman. When we have a lot of demand on against our work output, we have high demand on nutritional value, then we use a supplement as an additional topping up to our natural food sources. Moving on to the next myth. You go to the supermarket and you are seeing a lot of foods coming up like this is fat free. Now you would feel that, oh, I have bought a fat free food product and I've made a smart choice. I can eat it guilt free. No, it's not so. The more processed the food is, the more damage it is going to do to your body. Learn to see the nutritional label before buying a food. If it is fat free or low fat, instead replace it with a healthy substitute. Why? Because it has a lot of additives, it has a lot of preservatives. How a magic wand has happened that that particular fat rich food has turned out to be low fat? Have you even pondered to that? How is it possible? Even sugar-free products, I would say. A lot of people feel that, okay, I am diabetic and I have started replacing my sugar with sugar-free tabs. I would say, sorry. Instead, you limit your, have a healthy substitute, but don't go with sugar-free products. So why? Because if you will read the label, you will learn that the quantum of preservatives and additives which it has added is going to do more damage to your body. So don't run behind fat free and low fat foods. Don't feel that you are guilt free. No, it is not. Now, this is also one common question which I get a lot. I'll be answering all your questions at the end. Last 15 minutes I have kept only to answer the questions. So I'll run through all the whole talk, and then we'll take all the questions one after the other. I hope that's fine with everyone.
It's fine. Shelly, just you can increase the volume a bit. I think maybe on a system or keep your mic near to you.
It's very much near my
sound is a little low.
I don't know. I have tried to, or else just.
No worries. I think you can just continue. No worries. No worries. Yeah, you can just see from here if the volume is full. Yeah.
Okay. I think if this helps.
No, this will be out.
Just give me a feedback if this is better.
Yeah, this is better. We can continue.
Okay. Thanks for this. Okay. So the next one is rice. Now, a lot of people have a myth that if we eat more rice, we'll become fat. Now, just try to go to the supermarket and see what is available in the market. Like there are types of rice available. Like you can see there is a black rice, there's a red rice, there's a brown rice, there's a white rice. So from different body to body, the type of the rice matters a lot. Now, someone who has gut issues, the digestive system is not very effective, is used to bloating, is used to having flatulence or farting and all, I would recommend them to go with red rice or black rice and not brown rice. Now, the intent to do that is purely because the red rice and the black rice, if you see, there is a layer. Now, what exactly is that? So it's a rice. This is a white one. Now, there is a layer of a brown layer. Above there is a red layer, and above there is a black layer. These layers keep peeling off, and the fiber and the roughage from the food is going off. And the last one which is left is a white rice, which has actually very less fiber content than compared to the one which is there in the black rice. Now, if you consume black rice or a red rice, like in South India, if you see a lot of people, they are not diabetic. Their rice is a staple food. Why? Because they are indulging in red rice, which is rich in iron and rich in fiber, which is helping to flush out all the roughage which is there in, which is gradually accumulated in the whole digestive tract and pulled out from the intestine, and it's out from the body. So it is important what type of rice you're eating. For athletes, I would say, if you know that if you have a next day, if you want to have a long run, if you have to run 20K, you have to run 30K, then white rice, I would suggest them to go with white rice. Why? Because I want their gut to be good, because the next day they have to perform well. So it depends from person to person. For a diabetic, I would suggest them to go with red rice. So, and if someone's gut is good, then I would ask them to replace their white rice with brown rice. So it's not that the rice is bad. The timing, even for diabetics, especially if you are taking insulin and you are in, now the quantity for diabetics specifically, when you are eating the rice, it also matters. So it's actually a myth that rice makes you fat. It's not the case. You need to know and tweak when to have, what to have, and how much to have. That is a key which works in most of all the foods. The next one, the most debated one, soya. Now you have seen there is recently a lot of people are shifting onto plant-based foods, and they are gradually replacing their foods, incorporating soya because it has a rich protein, rich kind of essential amino acids. So the digestibility of the protein which is there in soya is actually much better than what you find in the milk products. Now you can see a comparison. This is not a Google data. This is from the foods which I personally have it. and it is from the nutrition label. There is no Google information in this, where you can actually find that the tofu, these are all the various kind of soya products which are listed here. And what you can observe from here is that it is very low in fat and it is low in carbs as well, but equally it is high in protein. Now that is where you have to compare that the milk what you consume, the paneer what you consume, what is the protein content in 100 grams versus what is there in the soya. Earlier, there have been lot of researches where people have spoken that okay, thyroid people can't have soya, men can't have soya because it is rich in estrogen and it affects the testosterone hormone. But it's honestly, it's just a myth. I have been doing a research on my own body and few of my own male friends as well, and collecting the data month on month basis, checking their fat analysis, checking their muscle analysis, doing the blood parameters, checking the blood values. And honestly, what I find is that it really improves your gut. Lot of people, 10 out of almost if I'm talking to 10 people, 9 people have some or the other gut issues. And you know what the culprit is? The culprit, you will find either it's a timing or it's a wheat or it's a dairy which is doing the damage. You tell them that 1 week you don't have it, and you yourself can try this. Try that for 1 week and you yourself will feel good from within. You don't need any data. You yourself experiment. Don't believe me. You try on your own and you will find that you'll have a good feel factor. Why? Because it is rich source of even the minerals, iron, calcium, magnesium, copper, zinc. All these you don't have to take supplements. You can nourish yourself along with the protein content. You also can fulfill your micronutrient intake. So it is definitely a myth, but I would suggest the quantity what you have to have, you please take it under the guidance, because everyone's medical history is different. And it is definitely a myth that the estrogen is doing. It's not estrogen. It is another estradiol, which is a similar component of estrogen. But there is myth that it's estrogen which is high, which is actually not true. And that is where I have brought this today in the myth, that it is not going to do a damage to you. Moving on to the next one, the most debatable one, milk. Now, I would ask all of you who all are consuming milk, though you are in mid 30s or mid 40s, who all are consuming milk. I want you all to raise the hands. You feel that if I really need to give milk to my kids as well. Why? The answer is that okay, it is a rich source of protein and calcium. No, you just read the nutrition label. This I pulled out from the Amul website. You see what is the protein in 100 ml of Amul's cow milk? It is just 3 grams protein. And if I go to the previous slide, 100 grams of soy protein, soya yogurt, I would say, it's 9.17 grams. You yourself can compare. Both are 100 grams. The quantity is same. You can compare it with soya milk as well. It's not that I follow plant-based milk and that is where I am trying to promote that. It is not at all the case. I have been to a transformation. I took 1 year to analyze that is it really true or it's just a myth, and have been constantly checking the blood parameters month on month basis and comparing the data, analyzing the data. And that is where I'm trying to say I'm here. I'm just sharing the insight which I got. I've just been following it for last 1.5 year. I really wished if I would have tried this earlier, it would have been much beneficial for me. And that is where I am trying to tell you all that just ponder on this thought at least once. Try to go milk free, milk and milk products. Avoid that for at least 2 to 3 weeks, and you yourself will see a difference in your body. You have lot of healthy substitutes. Now, why is it so? Now, what is happening in the old age, decades and decades before, the quality of the milk, what was there in the market, was much healthier. Currently, as the population is growing, the milk demand is growing, and what is the milk industry doing? They are actually giving estrogen injections to the cows. They are repeatedly making the cow pregnant and increasing the cow production so that they can increase the milk production, and they are mixing the different milk of different cows. And what the processing of this is leading to high estrogen. Now, when in the feed what is given to the cow is also having all estrogen rich foods. And when the food what the cow is eating has estrogen, and the cow which is being given hormone injections to produce more milk is adding into the hormone, and when this is then process milk is taken out, what is happening? They are processing the milk, but they are whatever pasteurization they are doing, they are not able to pull out the hormone from the milk, and that is where the estrogen levels in that milk is doing the whole damage in our human body. What is it doing? It leads to bloating, it creates lots of gut issues. It it, it leads to a lot of women have before the menstrual cycle they have some cramps around. You stop your milk, you will be free from all the menstrual related cramps and menstrual issues. Your acne will go off. A lot of men, they have man boobs. Have you even looked yourself in a mirror? Just check. Why do you have man boobs? That is because you are consuming the estrogen rich foods which are going and depositing in your chest area. And this is also leading to your increase of cholesterol intake. And apart from that, your cholesterol is increasing. A lot of people who have cholesterol, they might also have blood pressure issue. Why? Because it is also rich in sodium. That is also impacting your blood pressure level. And all this together is really doing the damage. This is I really want to emphasize here. I have brought significant transformation to a lot of people who have come to me, and I have got very positive responses from them. So it is not a biased view. I want you not to believe me, but just try on your own. The current milk, and from that milk, the milk products are made. You tell me the calf is drinking the own mother's cow's milk only till it is for a few weeks old. Even the calf of its is not able to have its own mother's milk after few weeks. Why? Because it is not able to digest, because it has high estrogen intake, and we as humans are consuming that milk. Imagine how a human, if the animal body is not able to digest, how in the world the magic wand has come and it is going to human body is going to digest that milk, that too without any problems? No. And this estrogen is also leading to cancer. Let me tell you, a lot of cancer cases are increasing because of the high estrogen intake in the food. So this was more on talking on milk. Sorry, I took more time on talking on milk because I really wanted to share this with all of you. I really want you all to follow at least few weeks by your own self and check it out and learn your results by yourself. Now the next myth is a lot of people, you all have started running, you have also started doing yoga, few have done Zumba. Now you might be having a myth, that whether we should do a workout in a fasting state or in a fat state. Now the answer to answer, if someone will ask me, I will say that it depends from individual to individual, because how your body is performing. Like few people will feel really energetic if they are doing in fasting state, whereas few people will find it really low in energy. They are not able to even sustain 1 hour of workout without eating anything. So it depends from person to person. So I would say that 1 week you try to do in a fasting state all your workouts, and the second week you try to do it in a fed state, and you yourself see what is more beneficial to you, and then you decide by yourself whether you want to continue your workouts in a fasted state or a fed state. Now when you are doing in a fasting state, what exactly happens is that you are not eating anything, so the glucose is not going into your tummy, and you are parallelly doing a workout, so you are doing a calorie expenditure. So what the human brain will do, they want to get the energy, but you have not eaten anything, so the glucose is not going into the mouth. So the brain will automatically start breaking the fat, and that is where your fat metabolism triggers, and the existing fat in your body helps to slowly release in the blood and give you energy to sustain during your workouts. But this holds true for few people, this holds true not for everyone. So that is where it is depending from individual to individual. You yourself try and see which works best for you. The next is on the negative calorie foods. Like you can see the list of the fruits and vegetables, which are all, what exactly is negative calorie food? Now the negative calorie food is basically the foods which which are high in fiber and which are high in water. Now these two things are high, that is where our digestive system is using more energy in our body to digest these foods, and that is where the weight loss is happening. So it is not the calorie of the food which is playing a role. The role play is the fiber and the water intake of the food, which is going into your system and helping you to burn more. So that is where if you really want to incorporate these negative calorie foods, you should try, because it definitely triggers your weight loss. And the second thing is, the more you chew, the better, the faster the trigger will happen. Minimum 35 times you should chew a morsel. Next time, if you're on lunch table, play a quiz, the family members should count each other's morsel. So the slower chewing you do, the better it is. So it's not only the type of the food, even how you chew the food equally plays an important role. So here we are. I'm back with one more quiz. We have been talking on myths on nutrients in the first section, and now we have spoken on a lot of myths on various foods. Now get ready. The question is, all vegetarians require protein powder for muscle building. Is it true or false? I'll give you 10 seconds. I want you all to answer. 10, 9, 8, 7. Am I seeing the answers? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the answer is false. Earlier, as I mentioned, that your nutritional needs are possible to be in your day. So it is purely a myth. Hello, is someone asking anything?
No, you can continue.
Okay.
Participant thoda ja apne part lewana છે.
Can everyone mute yourself? I can see some background. Can the admin mute everyone? I think
Yeah, it is done. You can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So this was more on that the protein sources are there from the food. You really don't have to depend only if you are doing a workout of 1 to 2 hours, I would surely say that if you plan your diet accordingly, you can meet your protein needs from the food. But if someone who is doing workout more than 3 hours and really are having an athletic goal, then it you need to depend on some supplement source as well. Now moving on to the next category on workout nutrition. I can see some background noise. Okay. So the first myth is that you need a pre-workout or a post-workout snack. Now, I already elaborated this that it is not the fasting state or a fed state. It depends from person to person. How intense is your workout? Now, I might be doing just a 40 minutes of workout, but it might be HIIT. My heart rate might be shooting up. So I might be doing some sprint intervals where though I have done only for 30, 40 minutes, but I might be burning out more, or I might be doing a long workout. So it depends from individual to individual what kind of workout. If you're doing just running and jogging, I would say you can surely do in a fasting state. You don't need anything. If you are doing only a 5 kilometers run, you can do only on water. But anything beyond 1 hour, you can depend on an electrolyte. And also anything beyond 1 hour, you can nourish yourself every 45 minutes. So the thumb rule is that if you're doing a workout more than 1 hour, then you need to depend on electrolytes against the water, and you should nourish yourself every 10 to 15 minutes with electrolytes, and have simple carbs every 45 minutes. But the intensity of the workout and the duration of the workout is a key here. Now the next one is a lot of people say कि oh आज तो मैंने बहुत अच्छा workout किया है. I really deserve to eat dessert, or I really can junk on some dry fried foods. No, it is not the case. You need to sustain. You also have to see how much you have burnt. Okay, you have done 2 hours of workout, but how intense that workout was. So you can't actually eat more than what you have burnt. So the major key here is that you really need to see how much the calorie output is there. Against that, you can balance it out. Once a week is okay, but if you have done daily, if you feel that मैं workout इसीलिए करता हूँ ताकि I can eat more, no, you are actually not helping your body. Once a week, you should gradually get into a lifestyle where you can fulfill all your cravings once a week. But all the other 6 days of the week, try to have a balance on your input versus output. Now, the next one is that what happens, like if you all are into a profession which demands lot of work on the laptop, and you're constantly sitting and juggling with numbers, and that is where you compromise on your mobility. So I would really suggest you all that either you have a standing desk, have a balance of sitting and standing, try to walk around when you're doing on your calls, have mobility, try to take stairs in a span of a day. If you're going now, due to the pandemic, you always have to take all your couriers, all your home deliveries, you have to go to the gate. So try to use staircase, have some mobility apart from your workout, and that is where you can actually balance your some amount of calorie output against your intake. The next one is that people only focus on calories. Now, I would say that calorie is just one part. Calories are, now there are 20 nutrients which you have to focus on. It's not only the calories which you have to get hooked on, because the way your digestive system works, how fast your digestive system can metabolize the food, how effective your digestive system also matters a lot. Now, I spoke about negative calorie foods. Now, there are few people who are able to, suppose if you are taking 100 carbs. Now, few people can absorb all the 100 carbs, 100 grams carbs, but few people can absorb only 60 grams. So from individual to individual, the absorption of the nutrient also matters from body to body, and that is where the effectiveness of the digestive system play a very important role. So it is not just you have to focus on what you are eating, but how fast you can metabolize it and flush it out of your system also plays a equal role. So guys, you are all set. I'm ending the next category of myths on various workout nutrition. So the question here is, exercise is more important than food to lose weight. True or false? I would like you all to quickly answer. Exercise is more important than food to lose weight. What do you think? Come on, I'm sure you can answer. After this, I just have the last one to go, so I'll try to quickly wrap up. Okay, so it's not the amount of exercise that it's actually false. The weight loss, almost 70 to 80% of the weight loss happens based on the food what you are having on the plate, and it's only 20 to 30% which it takes care in the workout. So I use this quote a lot, like food and fitness both are two sides of a coin. So you can't pick and choose. Both has to go hand in hand. And when you compare the ratio and proportion, 70 to 80% is more related to your food intake, and 20 to 30% is more related to your calorie output, that is your workout. Now, the last one is a lot of myths on dietary strategies. So you can see these some of the foods, like a lot of people say कि healthy खाना अच्छा नहीं होता है. It is not tasty. Now these are all foods you can see these are self-made in my kitchen. And do you find these dull? Do you find this boring? I will surely ask you all to give a try once. What is the key? You really need to tweak. You have to find out which is the culprit in this and try to find a good substitute. Swap it with a healthy substitute. Like this is a dark chocolate bar things. Now there are chocolates which are available in the market. If you read the label, it has more of sugar. Now, if you replace it with the dark chocolate, you will add on to your magnesium levels. You will add on to your antioxidant levels. You will improve your serotonin, which is reduced, which helps to calm your brain. So this is the dark chocolate bar things which you can use as a dessert. Instead of having iced tea, or like summers are there and a lot of people are trying to depend on cold drinks, fruit drinks, vegetable drinks, but please read the label. It's 80% of sugar. Instead, try to have kombucha. This is a homemade. What is kombucha? It is basically a fermented drink. So it is readily available in the market also. So it is a healthy substitute on anything which you want to drink. These are some energy balls with full of mixed seeds and dry fruits and dates, and there is a filling of almond butter in it. So when you eat, the almond butter melts as if a caramel is melting. Now the caramel is full sugar. Now that has been replaced with almond butter. So that you can use as an evening snack. This is a breakfast. Now what exactly is this? This is not cheese. This is grated tofu on a chilla. Everyone makes it at home. What I have done is that this is a protein, but I've enhanced the protein value by grating a tofu on it. So I feel as if I'm eating cheese, but I'm actually enhanced the nutrition value. This is a breakfast meal. This is a smoothie bowl. Like a lot of people tell me that they don't like to have greens. Now, if you really don't like greens, just make a smoothie out of it. So these are a lot of microgreens and the salad greens mixed, blended together, and topped up with pomegranate and chia seeds. And this is how you can really make your food interesting. So it is not that healthy food is boring. It is not that healthy food is not tasty. It is how well you tweak is important. The next is low carb meals. Now, I already elaborated a lot on carb, that the right carb is really important. So I won't go much into depth at this. And the last one is the raw food diet. Now, what happens is that it is really good the more you consume raw food, because it is naturally produced. It improves your gut health. It improves the gut bacteria in your intestine. It improves your skin. It improves your brain function. As it has a lot of fiber, it reduces the constipation, and it is less processed. There are there are actually no preservatives. So that is where it has a lot of benefits, but the only concern is that how best you can adapt to it, because you are daily going to have all the courses of the meal, some or the other kind of a salad. So if you are not able to have it, the better way to work is that balance it. In a span of a day, have a combination of cooked versus raw food, and that is where you can actually have a balanced meal in terms of catering to the nutrition value and also the taste palette of yours. So that is all which I wanted to say, and I would end with that always have a slow progress. Try not to just immediately go into a fast weight loss journey, because it's not helpful. You will regain. So it is always slow and steadily. Try to make it a lifestyle change rather than a temporary change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelly. I think there are a few questions that you can take in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just finding
Yeah.
what is the chat box Q&A. Okay. So what is the replacement of milk for vitamin D for vegetarians? So vitamin D is something I would say you should depend more on the sunlight. Try to we all, due to the lockdown, had limited exposure to the sun, but it's really important that you sit and expose yourself to the sunlight, the best source of vitamin D. Try to sit and expose yourself for at least 20 minutes, and you can do the needful.
Great, you are.
I am having
Sitting room છે ને લોકોને.
Can the admin mute all the participants? It's really disturbing.
Yeah, Siddharth bhai, if you can mute everyone.
Yeah. The next one is there are diets which suggest you should start your day with fat like 1 teaspoon ghee. Is it advisable? Yeah. So I would say that we do this kind of recommendations, but it depends from body to body. Like person whose fat metabolism is quite slow, we definitely give this. It is very helpful. It tries to activate your fat metabolism first before the carbohydrate metabolism, but from person to person it varies. There is no thumb rule for this. Now B12 for vegetarian, I would say you have to depend on broccoli is one, but you have to depend on supplements for this. There is no other answer to this. So there are B12 supplements and D3 supplements, which as a vegetarian, you should periodically check and induce yourself into the body. Any suggestions for replacement of buttermilk in daily routine? I would say instead of buttermilk, I would say you should have coconut water, or you should have chia seeds, the water with chia seeds, which will keep your gut health in check. You won't have any bloating. If at all you have any bloating, you have overnight soaked chia seeds of water and keep adding water to that, or have infused water rather than this. You will stay hydrated, and it will also help you to keep your gut in check. Yeah, so there are buttermilk and curd to be taken or not. So there are plant-based substitutes for this. There are
Hello.
Yeah.
You continue. Shall you can continue?
Okay. So there are, like in buttermilk, we have cashew milk based buttermilk. With related to curd, we have peanut curd, we have coconut based curd. So there are healthy substitutes and easily available in the market. It's just that how fast you can try and implement into your lifestyle. Please suggest a good brand of dark chocolate. So the one which we consume a lot, like is Mason and Company. It's a brand based out in Pondicherry. They are into organic dark chocolates, and you can read the label. It has no preservatives, no additives, full of organic cocoa, which is grown with a lot of supervision. And there are various. So if you are starting from a milk chocolate to a dark chocolate, I would say a normal Indian palate is to accommodate 45% of dark chocolate. So you can start from 45% of cocoa content to 55% to 60% to 70 to 80 and then 90. So gradually you can progress and you can incorporate. And the other brand which we also consume is more on, it's an artisan chocolate, handcrafted, and which is Royal Beans. So these are the two ones which I consume a lot, and I also recommend it to our clients. Now, your view on wheat intake. So the wheat is something which I do not recommend, especially we decide on when we take the diet recall, we see how well is the gut, because 2 to 3% of fat is there. 2 to 3% of the fat is in the cereals. So I would suggest that if you really are focusing on weight loss, fat loss, you try to go off wheat. If your gut issues are there, go off wheat and you will see remarkable positive differences. Instead, you can go with low gluten products which are available in the market. Sourdough bread is one. If you really can't live without wheat, then low gluten products you can definitely try as a substitute. What should we eat for dinner for weight loss? So what I would recommend is that you should try to have a balanced meal, have a combination, like I can suggest what we had, what normally we have, a lot of salads or soups. The soup, the base is mostly any pulse water, like a whole pulse water, like a rajma water or a chana water, red chana water, all these, whatever pulses and legumes are boiled, that water I normally preserve and put all the steamed vegetables into it, and it is a good protein and I would say a good combination of protein and complex carbs from the veggies, and this together it makes it a good quality protein. What is a good quality protein? The digestibility, as I mentioned, the how well your body can absorb it. It's not only what is there on the plate, but how far your body can absorb, that also matters. So that is where you always should try to mix protein with carb, which will improve your quality of the protein what you're having and the absorbability in the digestive tract. So soups and salads are something which I would really recommend for dinner. How we can take nutritional diet if we are living in a PG? Okay. So this is not an excuse. If you do not have cooking facilities, there are foods which are available, like I mentioned, the soya. Now, soya products, we normally like tofu, tempeh, which I mentioned. All these are the products which does not require cooking. You can directly open the pack. The one which I consume is Health on Plants products. You can quickly open the wrapper, cut it and have it. There is no compromise on taste as well. There are, like if you see aloo tikki, burger tikki, now they have tofu tikki, which you can directly have it. So there are a lot of micro greens, salad greens readily available. You can simply chop it, put chopped cucumber and tomatoes and have it. So I don't think, if you plan your meals, then you can definitely, without cooking or without, though you are living in a PG, you can accommodate it. So it is just an excuse, I would say. If you plan it well, you can definitely achieve it. What is the, so I have already answered this question, but how to make chia seed water little tasty? So if you add it in coconut water or you add in a plain water, you add mint leaves, you add a stick of cinnamon and put it overnight. You put you can keep changing the type of fruit, 3 slices, either apple slices, orange slices, any citrus fruit slices, and you can actually infuse the flavor of the fruit in that, and you can make it quite tasty. Exposure to sun at 8 a.m. is good for vitamin D, or should I think it is somewhere between 9 to 9:30 is the best timing. How to avoid morning tea addiction? Is it a myth or actually bad? So tea is more psychological. Tea and coffee is something which a lot of people feel that, okay, if I don't have tea in the morning, I'll get headache. No, it's actually psychological. You have been telling your brain regularly कि अरे चाय तो पीनी ही पड़ेगी, अरे बिना चाय के सर दर्द हो जाता है. I can't start my day without the tea. It is actually psychological. If you keep telling yourself, if you gradually do a baby step, if you are taking one full mug of tea, gradually reduce the quantity of the milk which you are adding in the tea, then gradually reduce the quantity of the tea what you are having, and then gradually you will reach to a stage where you can have no tea and see how it does to your body. It is purely psychological, but we don't impose this. It comes from within because you yourself have to get convinced. Only then you can do it. So whenever we give even a nutrition plan to someone, we don't touch tea and coffee because it is directly linked to psychology. It has nothing to do with what you say. It has to come from within, I would say. So I would say it's not required. You can depend on the green tea or black tea if required, but a lot of chamomile tea is there. It really is helpful. Red clover tea is really helpful for women. So there are a lot of options available. It's just that you have not yet explored it. But the more you explore, you will find really good substitutes. It's a matter of your interest and inclination to make a change in your lifestyle. So I think, how much non-veg eating is helpful. So if you are able to burn how much you are eating, then it is fine, provided you are not obese. If you're already obese, you have to actually reach to a stage where your calorie intake and calorie output is same. And the time under what type you are eating. Like if you are consuming in the first half of the day, then you have some mobility and you are able to digest it faster. Because if you are having it at night, you are going to be sluggish. Your digestive system is not going to be very effective. You are already tired because of the day, whole day stress and all. So I would suggest if you're eating non-veg, if you are able to have a good workout, you are able to balance it out with your calorie output and having it first half of the day, trying to depend on the cooking method, like whether you are giving in a grilled format or a steamed format rather than a deep fried format or a curry format. I think it is much better. So I think I have tried to answer. Kava is beneficial. So kava, it depends what is your BP levels because it has a bit of sodium. You can indulge into it once a day, but not more than that. Even green tea, you should not indulge more. 2 cups max is better. Rather, I would suggest you should indulge into infused water is much better to hydrate yourself. Okay, I think I have covered most of the questions. I have been talking. I really want to know if people really found it useful or not. I want you all to really keep these lessons in your head and try to sustain the learning. Not forget it after this whole challenge which is done of a month by ICI gets over. I don't want you all to really go back to your routine. Rather, sustain it. Sustenance is the key. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Shelly. One question I think is repeatedly being asked regarding the intake of warm water and cold water. If you can just guide them.
Yeah. Really good question. Thank you for pointing this out. It's good someone has asked this question. So our body temperature plays very important role. There is one particular temperature in the body. Now, as summer is kicked in, a lot of people try to depend on the cold water, which I don't recommend because the temperature inside the body is very different. Instead, you have a normal temperature water is the best. And due to the pandemic going on, We recommend in the mornings you try to have warm water, but otherwise having a warm or a cold option, the best is to have a normal temperature, because it has to match the temperature of inside our body. Otherwise, what happens is if you are having too hot or too cold, the acid secretions are going in your GI tract and you are actually disturbing, because the body temperature has to be aligned with the temperature of the food what you are eating. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelly. I think it was a very enriching session. I would now request CA Anjali Choksi ma'am, our secretary, to please propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Chairman. We are grateful to this Sunday Mythbusters experts Shaili Chauhan, our team leaders Purvi Parikh and Sohil Parikh for enlightening us with valuable contribution. Shaili, the session was really very informative, very useful. You have solved so many myths for us, whether on nutrients, whether on food. There are many takeaways. My personal takeaways are: number one, the ratio of exercise and food, 70 to 30%, 30% food and 30% exercise and 70% food. Second is the importance of gluten-free diet. Third, using less dairy and dairy related products. The importance of nut milk. And your detox water planner was really amazing. I've just taken a photo of it and definitely will follow one day to have the detox day meal plan. We are really grateful and you have solved many of your queries. And thank you so much. Ahmedabad branch of ICI will look forward for you for many more sessions. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.